Thanksgiving in my family was never just a meal. It was a battlefield disguised as a holiday where everyone's actions were scrutinized and invisibility could feel like a curse. My cousin Vanessa thrived in this chaos, and for years she made sure I always lost. I am Claire, 32, and I grew up in a household where everyone lived within 20 miles of each other. That meant no escape. My parents, my aunts and uncles, my cousins, they were everywhere, always observing, always ready to criticize. And then there was Vanessa, my cousin, 2 years younger, who had been the golden child of the family since forever. Vanessa was beautiful, the kind of beauty that made people stop talking mid-sentence. Long blonde hair that gleamed like sunlight, piercing green eyes that seemed to see right through you, a body that seemed sculpted by some divine artist. She knew she was beautiful, and she had learned how to use it like a weapon from a very young age. I learned about her weapon firsthand when I was 23. I had been dating Marcus, a sweet, kind, shy graphic designer. He was thoughtful, gentle, someone I could imagine a future with, and yet I was terrified to bring him to Thanksgiving at Aunt Diane's house. Marcus insisted. "I want to meet your family," he said, eyes sincere. "I'm serious about you, Claire. I want to be part of your life." I wanted to believe him, but my stomach twisted in knots at the thought of Vanessa. Thanksgiving Day arrived, crisp and cold outside. The leaves had turned golden and red, but inside Aunt Diane's house, the warmth was more about heat than kindness. Vanessa arrived late, as if on cue, in a tight red dress that screamed nightclub, not family dinner. My mom gave me that look I'd seen 1,000 times before. Here we go again. She returned to mashing the potatoes, pretending everything was normal, but I could feel my anxiety coil tighter in my chest. Dinner began, and everything seemed fine at first. Laughter, clinking of cutlery, polite conversation about football and recipes. I sat next to Marcus, proud to finally introduce someone I cared about to my family. For a moment, I allowed myself to relax. Then Vanessa moved. She came over, leaned in, pressed herself against Marcus, touched his arm when she laughed, and asked questions in that sing-songy voice she knew would charm anyone. I was there, literally there, and yet invisible. The way she worked Marcus was methodical. She knew his type, shy, polite, unassuming, and she knew exactly how to make him feel noticed. I wanted to scream, to push her away, but I was frozen, trapped by my own disbelief. After dinner, I noticed them slipping away to the kitchen together. Vanessa had her hand on his chest, leaning close, whispering something. Marcus's eyes darted around nervously. When they saw me, Vanessa gave that innocent, practiced smile. I was just telling Marcus how lucky he is to have you. 3 weeks later, Marcus ended it. He said he needed space, that he wasn't ready for something serious. I saw him 2 months later on Instagram, tagged in a photo with Vanessa, his arm around her waist. That was the first heartbreak Vanessa had orchestrated, but it wouldn't be the last. Ryan, David, James, Tyler, Christopher, every guy I dated became a target. Vanessa always seemed to know how to swoop in, charming them, pulling them away, leaving me alone and humiliated. My family did nothing. My mom whispered that Vanessa didn't mean anything by it. Aunt Diane suggested I shouldn't bring men around if I couldn't handle a little competition. Grandma Helen told me I needed to be more feminine to keep a man interested. I stopped bringing dates. I stopped trying. For years, I showed up alone, silent, invisible, avoiding attention so Vanessa couldn't use it against me. Holidays became mine alone. I would eat, smile politely, and leave. Vanessa continued her reign, but I had learned to protect myself, even if it meant isolation. Vanessa thrived on attention. She would arrive at family events looking like a celebrity, making small talk with men I had been seeing, laughing at their jokes, leaning in close, touching their arms. My heart would race, my stomach would twist, and my family would do nothing. I became an expert at predicting her moves. I could see the way she scanned the room, spotting every new boyfriend, calculating her approach. The precision was frightening. She never missed an opportunity, and every man I cared about seemed to fall for her charm eventually. My self-confidence plummeted. I questioned myself constantly. Was I not enough attractive? Was I too boring? Too serious? Too invisible? My family's advice only worsened it. They implied it was me, not her manipulations, that drove the men away. By my late 20s, I developed a shell. I stopped letting people in, stopped introducing anyone to my family. Holidays became mine alone. I would eat, smile politely, and leave. Vanessa continued her reign, but I had learned to protect myself, even if it meant isolation. And yet, deep inside, I longed for someone different, someone who could see me, truly see me, and choose me over the chaos Vanessa always created. That hope, fragile as it was, lingered, waiting for the right person to come along. By the time I turned 31, I had all but given up on family holidays. I told myself I was happy being single, focusing on my career, keeping my heart to myself. But life, as it often does, had other plans. That year, I met Trevor. Trevor was different. He wasn't flashy, he didn't have a grandiose personality, and he didn't feel the need to prove anything. He was a doctor, yes, but more than that, he was kind, grounded, funny. He laughed at my dry humor, challenged my opinions gently, and seemed genuinely interested in who I was. After 8 months together, I realized he might be the first man in my life who wouldn't fall for Vanessa's games. He asked to meet my family repeatedly. At first, I said no. I'm not ready. I lied. The truth was, I feared Vanessa. I feared the games, the manipulations, the heartbreak. I feared bringing someone into a room where my family seemed incapable of seeing reality. One evening, sitting across from him at a small diner, I finally admitted everything. I told him about Vanessa. Every detail. I warned him, she'll try something. She always does. Just stay close to me. Don't engage. Trevor laughed, not dismissively, but genuinely amused. "Claire, I'm a grown man," he said, reaching across the table to take my hand. "I love you. Trust me. You're worrying for nothing." I wanted to believe him. I wanted so badly for this to be different. Christmas was coming, and I couldn't hide him forever. Christmas Eve, the drive to my parents' house was tense. Snow flurried against the windshield, and my stomach churned with every mile closer. Trevor was calm, holding my hand tightly, whispering reassurances. I could feel my anxiety gnawing at me, but his presence steadied me, just a little. The house was bustling with relatives when we arrived. My mom hugged me like I had been gone for years. My dad shook Trevor's hand, asking about his work. He told stories about his residency with a quiet confidence, nothing overbearing, nothing that invited jealousy. For a moment, I allowed myself to breathe. Then Vanessa arrived, dressed in a tight white sweater dress and impossibly high heels, her hair in perfect waves, her makeup flawless. She looked like she had stepped out of a magazine. The room seemed to pause. My chest tightened, a familiar wave of dread washing over me. She approached Trevor with that predatory smile, extending her hand. "You must be Trevor," she said. "I'm Vanessa, Claire's cousin." Her grip lingered just a second too long. Her eyes sparkled with calculation. Trevor shook her hand briefly, polite but distant. I could see the slight lift of his brow, the way he didn't let her charm pull him in. Relief and admiration for him mingled with a nod of fear. Vanessa tilted her head, feigning curiosity. "I've heard so much about you. Claire is lucky." Her words dripped with intention. I forced a tight smile. The rest of the evening was a dance. Vanessa followed us like a shadow, engaging Trevor in conversation, laughing too loudly at his jokes, leaning in close, touching his arm. I stayed on high alert, watching his every reaction. At one point, she spilled wine on her dress. "Oh no," she squealed. "Trevor, could you help me? You're a doctor, you must know how to clean this." My heart leapt into my throat. Trevor hesitated. He looked at me, and I saw the flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. Then he stepped away. "They're fine," he said calmly. "Let's leave it." And just like that, he returned to my side, hand on my lower back. Vanessa's perfect facade faltered ever so slightly. After dinner, the living room became another battlefield. Vanessa cornered Trevor near the drinks, whispering, laughing, leaning in close. I sat across the room, heart hammering. Normally, by now, the man would be hooked, laughing, interested, flustered. But Trevor, he simply nodded, smiled politely, and returned to me. Watching him deflect Vanessa's charms, my chest filled with a strange, unfamiliar feeling. Hope. Perhaps this time it was different. Perhaps I had finally found someone who saw me, truly, and chose me over the chaos Vanessa always created. By the time we left, Vanessa's frustration was palpable. She had tried everything. Flattery, seduction, manipulation, and it had failed. My heart raced as I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. In the car, I couldn't hold back my emotions. Tears blurred my vision. "Why didn't he fall for it?" I whispered. No, Trevor," he smiled gently, shaking his head. "Because I choose you, Claire. That's all you need to know." I wanted to believe that was the end of the story, that finally Vanessa's reign over my relationships was over, but deep down, I knew life rarely wrapped up neatly. Life with Trevor, or rather Michael, as I had come to call him by then, began to feel like a quiet refuge after years of chaos. Wait, let me back up a bit. After Christmas with Vanessa's attempted games, I realized I needed someone who wasn't just polite, but who could actually handle her. That was when Michael entered my life in a way I never expected. I had started volunteering at a literacy program at the local library, just to keep busy and focus on something that wasn't about heartbreak or family politics. One of the programs involved corresponding with inmates, trying to improve their reading and writing skills. I figured it could be a distraction, maybe even rewarding. Michael was assigned to me. He was serving the last 2 years of a 7-year sentence for armed robbery. His first letter was short, polite, and cautious. He thanked me for volunteering, said he hoped to improve his writing, and signed off simply. I wrote back, telling him about my work, my love for hiking, Michigan's weather, and other mundane details. I expected polite replies in return, maybe a thank you or a sentence about a book he was reading. But what came back was raw, honest, and unexpectedly engaging. He wrote about growing up in Detroit, the bad choices that landed him in prison, and the reflections he'd made while serving his sentence. There was no pretense, no trying to impress me, just honesty, vulnerability, and a surprising sense of humor. We kept writing. Once a week became twice a week, then almost daily. Michael shared books he loved, lessons he was learning in anger management, his plans for life outside. I shared my struggles with my family, the endless cycle with Vanessa, my feelings of invisibility, my anger, and my heartbreak. He never judged me. He never told me to just be more confident or brush Vanessa off. He said simply, "Your cousin sounds miserable, Claire. That's not about you. That's her problem." And somehow, just that simple observation was comforting. Months passed. We grew close through our letters, developing a rhythm, an intimacy built on words, honesty, and mutual respect. I began to look forward to his letters more than anything else in my week. Then came the letter that changed everything. Michael was getting out in 2 months. He asked if I would meet him. Coffee. No pressure. I hesitated. The rational part of me screamed against it, but something in my heart, something desperate for a connection that wasn't toxic, said yes. October arrived. I met Michael at a small coffee shop in Grand Rapids. My nerves were frayed. This was someone I'd known only on paper. When he walked in, I recognized him immediately. Tall, broad-shouldered, neatly cut dark hair, nervous but warm smile. He looked real and good in a way that didn't demand attention. We talked for 3 hours about life, books, mistakes, dreams. He told me about adjusting to freedom, finding work in construction, planning community college classes. I shared my struggles with my family, the endless cycle with Vanessa, my feelings of invisibility, my anger, and my heartbreak. He never judged me. He never told me to just be more confident or brush Vanessa off. He said simply, "Your cousin sounds miserable, Claire. That's not about you. That's her problem." And somehow, just that simple observation was comforting. Months passed. We grew close through our letters, developing a rhythm, an intimacy built on words, honesty, and mutual respect. I began to look forward to his letters more than anything else in my week. Then came the letter that changed everything. Michael was getting out in 2 months. He asked if I would meet him. Coffee. No pressure. I hesitated. The rational part of me screamed against it, but something in my heart, something desperate for a connection that wasn't toxic, said yes. October arrived. I met Michael at a small coffee shop in Grand Rapids. My nerves were frayed. This was someone I'd known only on paper. When he walked in, I recognized him immediately. Tall, broad-shouldered, neatly cut dark hair, nervous but warm smile. He looked real and good in a way that didn't demand attention. We talked for 3 hours about life, books, mistakes, dreams. He told me about adjusting to freedom, finding work in construction, planning community college classes. I shared my struggles with my family, the endless cycle with Vanessa, my feelings of invisibility, my anger, and my heartbreak. He never judged me. He never told me to just be more confident or brush Vanessa off. He said simply, "Your cousin sounds miserable, Claire. That's not about you. That's her problem." And somehow, just that simple observation was comforting. Months passed. We grew close through our letters, developing a rhythm, an intimacy built on words, honesty, and mutual respect. I began to look forward to his letters more than anything else in my week. Then came the letter that changed everything. Michael was getting out in 2 months. He asked if I would meet him. Coffee. No pressure. I hesitated. The rational part of me screamed against it, but something in my heart, something desperate for a connection that wasn't toxic, said yes. October arrived. I met Michael at a small coffee shop in Grand Rapids. My nerves were frayed. This was someone I'd known only on paper. When he walked in, I recognized him immediately. Tall, broad-shouldered, neatly cut dark hair, nervous but warm smile. He looked real and good in a way that didn't demand attention. We talked for 3 hours about life, books, mistakes, dreams. He told me about adjusting to freedom, finding work in construction, planning community college classes. I shared my struggles with my family, the endless cycle with Vanessa, my feelings of invisibility, my anger, and my heartbreak. He never judged me. He never told me to just be more confident or brush Vanessa off. He said simply, "Your cousin sounds miserable, Claire. That's not about you. That's her problem." And somehow, just that simple observation was comforting. Months passed. We grew close through our letters, developing a rhythm, an intimacy built on words, honesty, and mutual respect. I began to look forward to his letters more than anything else in my week. Then came the letter that changed everything. Michael was getting out in 2 months. He asked if I would meet him. Coffee. No pressure. I hesitated. The rational part of me screamed against it, but something in my heart, something desperate for a connection that wasn't toxic, said yes. October arrived. I met Michael at a small coffee shop in Grand Rapids. My nerves were frayed. This was someone I'd known only on paper. When he walked in, I recognized him immediately. Tall, broad-shouldered, neatly cut dark hair, nervous but warm smile. He looked real and good in a way that didn't demand attention. We talked for 3 hours about life, books, mistakes, dreams. He told me about adjusting to freedom, finding work in construction, planning community college classes. I shared my struggles with my family, the endless cycle with Vanessa, my feelings of invisibility, my anger, and my heartbreak. He never judged me. He never told me to just be more confident or brush Vanessa off. He said simply, "Your cousin sounds miserable, Claire. That's not about you. That's her problem." And somehow, just that simple observation was comforting. Months passed. We grew close through our letters, developing a rhythm, an intimacy built on words, honesty, and mutual respect. I began to look forward to his letters more than anything else in my week. Then came the letter that changed everything. Michael was getting out in 2 months. He asked if I would meet him. Coffee. No pressure. I hesitated. The rational part of me screamed against it, but something in my heart, something desperate for a connection that wasn't toxic, said yes. October arrived. I met Michael at a small coffee shop in Grand Rapids. My nerves were frayed. This was someone I'd known only on paper. When he walked in, I recognized him immediately. Tall, broad-shouldered, neatly cut dark hair, nervous but warm smile. He looked real and good in a way that didn't demand attention. We talked for 3 hours about life, books, mistakes, dreams. He told me about adjusting to freedom, finding work in construction, planning community college classes. I shared my struggles with my family, the endless cycle with Vanessa, my feelings of invisibility, my anger, and my heartbreak. He never judged me. He never told me to just be more confident or brush Vanessa off. He said simply, "Your cousin sounds miserable, Claire. That's not about you. That's her problem." And somehow, just that simple observation was comforting. Months passed. We grew close through our letters, developing a rhythm, an intimacy built on words, honesty, and mutual respect. I began to look forward to his letters more than anything else in my week. Then came the letter that changed everything. Michael was getting out in 2 months. He asked if I would meet him. Coffee. No pressure. I hesitated. The rational part of me screamed against it, but something in my heart, something desperate for a connection that wasn't toxic, The relief I felt after Thanksgiving didn't last long. At first, I thought we had finally won. Michael had proven himself different. Vanessa had failed. The pattern that had haunted me for over a decade had finally broken. For the first time in years, I slept without that familiar knot in my chest. A week later, my mom called. Her voice was tense, clipped in that way she used when she was trying to sound reasonable, but was already on someone else's side. She told me Vanessa had come over crying. She said Vanessa felt unsafe at Thanksgiving, that she had been uncomfortable around Michael, that she had looked him up online. I knew instantly what that meant. She found out about his record, I said flatly. My mom sighed. Claire, honey, you should have told us. Bringing a felon into a family gathering without warning anyone isn't okay. The word felon hit harder than I expected. Like Michael was suddenly reduced to nothing but his worst mistake. Like the kindness, patience, and loyalty he had shown meant nothing. I snapped. I told her Vanessa was upset because she didn't get what she wanted. I told her Michael had done nothing wrong. I told her Vanessa had spent years sabotaging my relationships and no one had ever cared. My mom cried. She said Grandma Helen was worried. She said Dad was angry. She said I was tearing the family apart. I hung up shaking. For weeks, messages poured in. Aunts, uncles, cousins, all concerned, all neutral on the surface, all somehow centering Vanessa. No one asked how I felt. No one asked how Michael felt. It was like the moment Vanessa didn't win, the family rushed in to rewrite the narrative. Michael tried not to show it, but I could tell it weighed on him. People looking at him differently, the unspoken suspicion, the way his past followed him like a shadow he couldn't outrun. Then Jessica called. Jessica had always been the quiet cousin, the one who watched, who noticed things, who never fully bought into the family mythology. When she asked to meet me in person, something in her voice made my stomach drop. We met at a coffee shop. She didn't touch her drink. She just held the cup, hands trembling slightly. I need to tell you something, and you're not going to like it. She told me Vanessa had been in therapy, that she had panic attacks, that her therapist believed she had deep insecurity issues and an obsession with male validation. That doesn't excuse anything, I said immediately. I know, Jessica said, but listen, after Thanksgiving, she completely spiraled. She told me Vanessa couldn't stop talking about Michael, about how he didn't react to her, how her usual tricks didn't work, how for the first time in her life she felt invisible. My chest tightened. Then Jessica dropped the bomb. Vanessa has been stalking him online. She found his old Facebook, articles about his arrest. She even contacted his ex. My blood went cold. She's trying to build a case, Jessica said quietly. She's been talking about going to the police, saying he made her feel threatened. The world tilted. I couldn't breathe. Vanessa had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. This wasn't about ego anymore. This was about destroying someone's life. I called Michael the second I got to my car. I told him everything, my voice shaking. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said something that terrified me with its calmness. I figured this might happen. He explained that people like Vanessa didn't handle rejection well, that as an ex-con, he was always vulnerable, that all it took was one accusation to complicate his life forever. I didn't threaten her. I didn't touch her. I didn't do anything. I know, I said, panic rising. But that doesn't matter. The accusation alone. I know, he interrupted gently. That night, I barely slept. My mind raced through worst-case scenarios. Police at the door, his job gone, parole complications, everything we were building ripped apart. The next day, Michael said something that stunned me. What if we let her lie? I stared at him. What are you talking about? What if we let her lie and then prove she's lying? He pulled out his phone and opened a voice recording. I recorded my conversation with her at Thanksgiving. I froze. He played it. Vanessa's voice was clear, mocking, cruel, telling him I was damaged, offering her number, laughing when he rejected her. Michael's voice followed, calm, firm, telling her he wasn't interested, telling her she should work on being a better person. The silence afterwards felt unreal. This proves she was the aggressor, he said. If she files a report, we use this. I felt a mix of horror and awe. Horror that it had come to this, awe at how prepared he was. Prison teaches you to protect yourself, he said simply. We waited. Days passed, then weeks. Nothing happened. I started to believe maybe Vanessa had backed down. Maybe she realized she couldn't win. Then my mom called again. Vanessa had been in a minor car accident. Nothing serious, but she was in the hospital and wanted to see me. Every instinct screamed no, but guilt, that old familiar poison, crept in. So I went. Vanessa looked small in the hospital bed, a bandage on her forehead, no makeup, no performance. She cried. She apologized. She admitted she had been jealous of me for years, that she took my relationships because she felt empty, that she was broken. I didn't forgive her. I told her that. I told her I hoped she got help, but I was done. When I walked out, I ran into Jessica. She almost filed the report, Jessica said quietly. My legs nearly gave out. Vanessa had really been willing to send an innocent man back to prison just to feel powerful. That night, when I told Michael everything, he was quiet. Then he said something. I think it's over. And for the first time, I believed it might be. After the hospital visit, something inside me finally shifted. Not healed, not forgiven, but settled. Like a storm that had exhausted itself after years of destruction. I wasn't shaking anymore. I wasn't waiting for the next blow. For the first time, Vanessa no longer controlled my nervous system. Michael noticed it before I did. "You're lighter," he said one night as we lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. "You're not bracing yourself anymore." I hadn't realized how much of my life had been spent bracing. A few weeks later, Michael asked me to move in with him. There was no dramatic proposal, no big speech, just honesty. "I spent 7 years in a cell," he said quietly. "I don't want to waste time pretending I don't know what I want. I want you. I want a life with you." I said yes without hesitation. We found a small apartment near his work, nothing fancy. Beige walls, slightly crooked cabinets, a heater that made weird noises at night. But it was ours. We bought mismatched furniture, argued about where the couch should go, laughed when we realized neither of us knew how to properly assemble a bookshelf. We adopted a dog from the shelter, a scruffy, over-energetic mutt with one ear that never stood up. We named him Rocket. He had been returned twice before us. "Too much energy," the shelter worker said, apologetically. He fit right in. Life became quiet, predictable, beautiful in its ordinariness. We cooked dinners, we argued about dishes, we watched bad TV. Michael worked long days, I complained about deadlines. We fell asleep on the couch more times than I could count. And my family? I stayed away. I skipped Easter, Mother's Day, 4th of July. When my mom called crying saying I was tearing the family apart, I told her calmly the family was already broken. I just stopped pretending it wasn't. That was the hardest boundary I'd ever held. Then the letter arrived. A real letter, handwritten, Vanessa's name on the envelope. I stared at it for a long time before opening it. Part of me wanted to burn it. Another part needed to know. The letter was long, messy, raw. Vanessa wrote about being abused at 12 by a family friend, about telling her parents and not being believed, about learning early that her body was the only thing that made people listen, that male attention became her survival mechanism, her currency. She wrote about me, about watching me build a life while she unraveled, about convincing herself that if she could take my happiness, she wouldn't feel so empty, about winning against me never actually made her feel better, only less alone for a moment. She didn't ask for forgiveness, she asked for understanding. At the end, she included a printed photo, one of her smiling beside a man she had stolen from me years ago. On the back, she wrote, "I'm sorry I made you feel invisible. The truth is, I was the one who felt invisible." I cried, not because it fixed anything, but because it finally explained everything. Michael read the letter carefully, then he looked at me. "You don't owe her anything. Not forgiveness, not reconciliation, nothing." I agreed. I wrote back briefly, kindly. I told her I acknowledged her pain, but I still needed distance, that maybe one day things could be different, but not now. She respected it. Time passed. A year and a half later, Jessica called. "Vanessa's engaged," she said. "To a woman. Someone she met through therapy. Someone calm, grounded, stable." Jessica said Vanessa was different now, softer, less performative, more real. Vanessa wanted to invite me to the wedding. I didn't answer immediately. That night, Michael and I sat on the couch. Rocket sprawled between us, chewing something he absolutely wasn't supposed to have. "What do you want?" Michael asked. "I don't know," I admitted. "I don't know if people really change." Michael smiled slightly. "I do." I thought about that, about who he was when he got out, about who he was now, about who I had become. The next day, I called Vanessa. We talked for 2 hours. No manipulation, no competition. Just two adults talking honestly for the first time in our lives. She told me about Monica. I told her about Michael, about our apartment, about Rocket. At the end, she asked quietly, "Will you come?" I said yes. The wedding is in 2 months. I don't know what it will feel like to see my family again. I don't know if trust will ever fully exist. I don't know if Vanessa's demons are gone or just quieter. But for the first time in my life, I'm not afraid, because I'm no longer trying to win. I already have. Michael chose me, not because Vanessa failed, but because he saw me. We're sitting on our couch now, debating whether to get a cat. He says yes, I say we already have a dog. He says that's exactly why we need balance. I laugh. This is my life. Quiet, ordinary, honest, and after everything I've been through, it is more than enough. It's everything.